We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us, talking about mental health treatments out there, especially as it relates to youngsters. Mental Health America very involved with it. Ashley Nunnally's with us. She's the supervisor of the Erase the Stigma program, especially for kids, the stigmas. Good to have her on. And Tom Starling is also president and CEO of Mental Health America here in Middle Tennessee. And thanks for coming on. And as we went to the break, before we take a few phone calls for you, I was just going to say, as Ashley was saying, you'll recommend the counseling and possibly therapy where maybe medicines are involved and the like. How do you know how much to push these kids? Of course, we know about suicide rates, and some may threaten or think about hurting themselves. And of course, every parent's worried about that. But on the other hand, enabling them and being there for their every whim isn't doing anyone a favor. How do you know how far to push to say, look, you have to take some responsibility for you getting better?
So with our program, it's really good about speaking to the children about what their responsibility is, and that is to speak up and be open to what that treatment plan is. We also use different statistics and identify superstars, so to speak, about how they have spoken out about what mental diagnosis they may have and how successful they are. So the idea is to erase that stigma around having a mental illness and saying that it is real, but it's treatable, and identifying that statistics with mental illnesses are out there.
Yeah, and Tom, the stigma again. How do you think the public, some of the public, I think it's getting better thanks to education efforts from organizations like yours. What is the stigma still about mental health?
It's not so bad amongst the youth. I think a lot of young people really get it. You have to treat the whole self, that there really is no health without mental health. But I think sometimes we as parents, we as older adults or grandparents, a lot of times there is that stigma about mental health. Are you defective? Are you crazy? Are you weak? Is it a character problem? And it's really none of that. It's really, just treating the whole self. And you can do that with exercise, yoga, therapy, talking to people about your issues, socialization, connectedness is such a big protective factor. And so we especially tell young people, stop with the gaming and get outside, exercise and socialize. That's so important.
Yeah, it is amazing. You could come to work and on that Monday you say, what did you do this weekend? And a coworker might say, oh, I threw my back out and I'm taking meds right now for it. And they'll talk about it. You go, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But you never hear a coworker say, oh, I was just really blue this weekend and I had to take my Prozac. And in my mind, both are equally a problem. And I make no judgments on that at all. I think the depression is just as bad as that bad back. But it just seems like, in society today, if you knew how many people around you that you work with every day are probably on some kind of medicine for mental health or getting therapy, I think it would shock you. And one way I know this is because try to get into a counselor or a psychologist somewhere. They are booked to the gills. Right? For children or adults. Am I wrong, Ashley?
No, you're absolutely
Tom?
right.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's stunning. And it's fine to be private, but it's like they're more likely to share, would you agree, Ashley, a physical ailment than a mental one?
I think that is true, but from my experience with implementing this program, children are actually more open to speaking up about what they're doing, which is going to therapy or their counselor or just seeing their guidance counselor once a week.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think there's no doubt. Children probably more likely, maybe because they've been insulated from the stigma at that early age, but as they get older, that may change. Don't you think, Tom?
Yeah, and that's one reason. I mean, Mental Health America, we've been around for 75 years. We have suicide prevention programs. We have mental health screenings. We have this youth program, but we also have a workplace wellness program that, we think it's important in the workplace for people to be able to say, hey, I've have had some really bad energy lately, or I have a flare. You need to be able to talk to supervisor, or if you need any reasonable, accommodations type of thing. But you always want to make sure that your employees are coping well and not in unhealthy ways, not with addictions or drinking, that they're using their employment assistance program, if there is one, that they're using their insurance. A healthy employee is going to be a happy employee, and you'll want to retain those employees. So it really is important in those workplaces, especially, to kind of overcome that stigma and know how you can talk about it and when you can talk about it to help others.
Let's take a call for you as we get some lines open here, 737-7587. And first caller this morning is my friend Joe. Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead.
I'm just listening to your guest talk about the problem we've got.
Yep.
But in my opinion, the morals in this country are in the toilet. We got kids running around with no fathers, single parents, and then after they commit a crime or whatever, they standard defense is, well, he had mental problems. Well, if he had mental problems, why hadn't somebody said something about it before they commit a crime? Our schools are in turmoil. I think this week they've caught 2 people with guns at schools.
Yep.
You put all that together, and it's social media junk that's out there. That's the worst thing that ever happened to this country, social media.
Listen, Joe, great points. Social media, I wouldn't say it's the worst thing, but it is a problem. Kids see this. Everything on social media is made to look a certain way. And if you follow that enough, you think, oh, my life's crap compared to this person. Look what they're doing. You know what? It's a bunch of bull is what it is. Most people are always posting just the best shot where they look the very best. You see them in person, not quite the same. They're saying they did all this great stuff over the weekend or whatever. I don't look at that, and when I do see it, it doesn't bother me because I know most of it's bull. But he's right. This past week, just here in Metro, just one pops into mind. There was a young man that is arrested now, charged with attempted murder for stabbing another kid in the school over a girl, okay? And I'm just wondering, you guys go into schools, and maybe we can talk about who can request presentations from you, but that's where I'm just guessing, are teachers trained to some degree, we know they are with bullying, to try to look for red flags to kind of prevent, in the extreme cases, students who may bring a gun to school and decide to shoot everyone up? I mean, that's really, for me, that's the most important thing you do, is help them identify that to avoid these killings in schools.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, number one, there's no mental illness that has extreme violence as a symptom. I think that the last statistic I read was 96% of all violent crime is not related to mental illness. So you start just looking at hate crimes and violence. Many times that has nothing to do with mental illness, but certainly in the schools. Teachers and administrators have to be trained every single year on suicide prevention. There is now a coordinated school health director in every school district so that they can work on, identifying, children that might need more help. There's alternative schools for students who are acting out and having behavioral problems. We certainly want to help children when they're young. For every dollar that you spend on children when it comes to mental health or health, that pays out $17 for adults. So, are you going to pay now and kind of try to mitigate some of these adverse childhood experiences that they're having and enduring, or are you going to wait and, pay for it when they're incarcerated or hospitalized or something like that? So we certainly are trying more and more to work with teachers and parents to better identify what's going on with their kiddos so that we can act earlier.
You know, so Ashley, who can request a presentation? I assume it's various schools, but I'm guessing the presentations may vary from elementary to junior high to high school. Maybe talk about how they can go about doing the request, and then how maybe the programs are different from each age group.
Right. So anyone in a school setting, a group setting with children can request a program presentation with myself by emailing or calling Mental Health America. And we do have different topics for the different age groups. For our K through 5, we use something called story time. Of course, we identify books that talk about different topics for that age group, like handling a bad day or identifying feelings other than being mad, happy, or sad. We talk about bullying for all of our age groups because that is a really big topic. For our older children, we do a presentation style, but it's more of a conversation. We use a PowerPoint and we go over different topics outside of what mental health and mental illnesses are and mental diagnosis. We have other topics about test anxiety, stress and depression, mental health education, and how to have healthy relationships. So the idea is to identify coping skills and to encourage our students to speak out, not necessarily because they may be dealing with a mental health issue, but because they may just be having an overall bad day.
Yeah, and everyone has one of those once in a while. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more of our conversation on mental health and the care and treatment that's out there with our guests. More of your phone calls as well right after this. Stay tuned.
This is a Storm 5 weather update. For weather on the go, download the